Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Craig Thompson from Ballinran Entertainment, and I want to take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy end of 2020, a year that I think most of us or all of us are happy to say goodbye to. And we're all looking forward to a brighter, healthier, and more prosperous 2021 in the year ahead. I'm very pleased to be hosting this live stream tonight, this premiere of a microdoc that we produced on one of Stratford's leading community leaders, business entrepreneurs, somebody who's been in the community for many years, grew up and was born and raised here, Brent Shackleton. Brent, welcome. And I've also noticed that your daughter Taylor is joining us tonight, so it's a family affair. So welcome to this online screening.
Well, thanks for having us, Craig, and look forward to seeing your production here.
Whatever possessed you to want to do a mini documentary on your business, Shackleton's Real Estate and Auction?
Well, it's hard to explain what exactly it is that I do, because I'm not just real estate, I'm not just an auctioneer, I'm not just running a storage business. I'm all of the above, but it was a matter of how to combine what it is we do and at the same time tell a story. And who better to tell a story than you, as you are the master storyteller, and Stratford is very fortunate to have your talents here locally.
Well, thanks very much, Brent. And I have to say, a good filmmaker can't make a good film without a good lead character.
Well, thank you.
It was good to work with you. And what we're going to do tonight, the order of business is we're going to live stream the film. It runs about 15 minutes. And Taylor, who's also online, is going to field the questions from the people who are watching. And we'll come back with a Q&A with you, Brent, after the film is over. So we'll see you at about 15 minutes, and we hope everybody watching enjoys the film. And in case you want to see the film later, it will be posted on YouTube and Facebook tomorrow. So enjoy the film, and we'll be back in 15 minutes.
Into their bed for monsters. The monsters must be real.
Happy birthday, Carl.
Oh, he likes he likes strawberries. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Carl. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. I just want to know whether Brent made that or did his mother make it?
Oh, he made it.
He made it. Good Brent.
He delivered anyway.
I delivered. Is it okay if I join you?
Oh, yeah.
Today's just a celebration of friendship, and all of these couples know each other. And through the house sale process, we got to know each other much closer than we did before. And this young man is Carl Thompson and his lovely wife Ruth, and they lived on Fight Crescent for 50 years. And next we have Tom and Diane Kidd, and they lived on Glendon Road. They had probably they had a pretty nice garden. Carl, I know you're the gardener, but they had a pretty nice garden too. We have John and Nancy Patterson. He was my very first principal at Downey Central. That was a few years ago. And I sold their house on Kelly's Lane.
But we were very pleased with what Brent provided for us. Not only did he sell our house, but he sold a lot of our furniture and other possessions. And he gave us a place to store some stuff for a while, and he did all the moving. It was amazing, all the things that came with the Shackleton package.
This is a typical example of a couple that have downsized from their home to an apartment or condo. And these are a lot of items that simply have been in the family for quite a number of years, and they just don't have a home anymore. The next generation either doesn't have the room or doesn't have the emotional connection to a lot of these items. But you can see by the age of these items, they have a history here. There's some these are a set of old lawn bowling balls. These are becoming collectible now, not so much for lawn bowling, but they're decorator or accent pieces for the home. These, the old briefcases and suitcases, again, they're accent pieces for homes. So there's a lot of nice stuff in this locker, actually. So we pull all of this stuff out. It goes into our main building, and at that point we start cataloging, photographing, and setting up. And what we're doing is creating an online auction. Here in the auction center, what we do here is we unpack everything. We put it in group lots or on its own, and we number it, and then we go through and we catalog. This is typical of any given auction here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of good dishes here. And sadly, these are not being used as much anymore. We're living in a society where everything has to be quick and maintenance free, so if you can't put these dishes in the dishwasher, they don't want them. And it's kind of sad in a way. But the great thing about an auction is we can give all of these items a new life and a new home.
Well, we moved to this house in 1993, and we lived here for 26 years. It's a great location because it's on the Stratford Golf and Country Club, the 9th fairway, and it just has beautiful views and just a lovely setting.
This house holds lots and lots of memories for us, lots of happy memories, and a few sad memories as well. But memories of a very contented time. This house represented sanctuary in the best sense of the word.
With our age, we're in our mid-70s. The place that we wanted to move to Greenwood Court, it became available. And so we made a decision that rather than wait any longer, this seemed like a good time. We were healthy enough to make the move and to enjoy the new place. So we decided to sell at that point. One of our favorite activities living here at Kelly's Lane was harvesting golf balls from our front lawn. And we would get, in the course of a year, 7 or 8 dozen golf balls, which Nancy would clean up, put in egg cartons, and sell at our annual garage sale. And these were golf balls that would come from the errant drives of golfers over on the 9th fairway of the Stratford Golf and Country Club. I'm going to miss this.
So we're at a complex called Nathan Court here in Stratford. It's a condominium complex and it's primarily retirees and seniors living here. A person here died recently and the families come in and they have taken all their personal belongings and keepsakes, and now we're here to clean out the house.
My name is Wendy Anderson, and I'm married to Brian, who's the elder son of the folks that lived here. This is a very bittersweet moment for him, so he's better off at home. It just is too much for him today.
Yeah, it's always hard going through this exercise. Our first step here is to clean the house out. Once all the contents are removed, we'll have the house cleaned and then we'll put it up for sale, and as it's empty, it'll be easy to show. This is a high school picture from St. Mary's District Collegiate from 1949-1950. This will go to an auction sale. There may be somebody still alive in this picture that might be interested in it. Welcome to the farm. This is where I grew up. My parents bought this 100-acre farm back in the late 50s, and this is where I spent my childhood. This is a beautiful Ontario 1861 farmhouse, and it's seen a lot of changes over the years. A lot of these trees around you, my father is responsible for planting those, and that's something he really instilled in me, is my love of trees. And we've carried on that tradition, and we've planted hundreds of trees on this farm. And we feel very fortunate that we were able to purchase the family farm here and carry on the tradition of living out here.
It's really quite daunting to sell your house at our age and realize you're going to downsize, and Brent Shackleton made it very easy for us.
He's not pushy. He's very low-key, and I like that. He was really nice with us.
It's been 2.5 years since we sold, and we deliberately haven't been coming by because we don't want to appear to be nosy or intrusive, but it tugs at the heart a little bit. We were in this house for 25 years, so it really, it was home, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And the thought of going from home to an apartment is scary, and Brent sure helped with that.
As much as I've been in sales all my life, I've never felt like a salesman. What got me into the auction business was I went to a farm sale and I saw a farm sale by auction. They had well over 100 people in attendance. They sold it for cash. They sold it no conditions. They sold it with the closing in 30 days. It was clean, simple, and cut to the chase. And they got a really good price for that farm. So I went to auction school down in the US and learned to do the fast talk, the chant, how to run the auction business, learned about values, and came back, and fortunately I had cousins that were also in the auction business, 3-generation auctioneers down near Aylmer, and I would go down there and that's where I cut my teeth in the auction business. This property was part of my grandfather's farm. It was a 100-acre farm back in the day, and this yard here was for a parking lot for all the vehicles. We would have live auctions every 2-3 weeks. People loved coming here. They would fill the room up. My mother and my mother-in-law would make pies and sell hot dogs in the kitchen, and it was a great family atmosphere here. My kids worked with me in the business. My wife, who was working a full-time job, she would come at night and clerk for me for the sales. And it was a lot of fun. What was happening in the live auction business people simply didn't have the time to sit there for 3 hours waiting for that one item to come up, whereas at an online auction, they knew to the minute when that item would become available. So this is the Shackleton's online auction. We take all of the items we're selling, we photograph them, catalog them, and post them on our shackletons.ca website. And from here, you can do all your bidding. The beauty of the online auction is this is accessible to people from all over the world. And at any given auction, we are getting upwards of 500 plus people attending every sale. These aren't viewers, these are bidders. So we're getting 500 bidders at an auction online. When clients approach me about moving, I can appreciate what they're going through because I've gone through it myself. It's more than just a financial transaction, it's an emotional change in their life.
Well, we're here pretty well exactly 50 years. We moved in November '69. We moved out in February
February.
20.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was difficult. It was difficult, yes.
It was difficult, more difficult for him than it was for me. I'm enjoying Greenwood, and but it was a nice home too.
And we got a lot of memories of the kids climbing this tree with it, you know.
Every time they came, no matter what age, they had to climb that tree. That was a big event.
For someone our age, it was a very easy move. So I would sure recommend it to anyone in our age group, or even a little younger, that are thinking of selling, to call Brent and ask him a few questions. And I think you'd be very, very satisfied with what he will tell you and what he will do for you. Thanks, Brent.
I'm speechless.
Strawberries for the cake.
I know people.
Well, Brent, if these were normal times, we'd have set up a screen in the auction hall, had a bunch of your friends and clients over, and had a nice cocktail party reception to watch this film. Maybe we can do that later this year.
For sure, I've got the cocktails.
You've got a big room as well.
And we've got the room, for sure.
Let me ask you this.
Sounds a good plan.
Yeah, good plan. Let's hope it happens sooner rather than later. I want to start, Brent, by asking you how the pandemic has affected or hasn't affected your business, your multi-pronged business. So things in general for you.
Mm-hmm. So as far as the auction goes, we were already doing online auctions for the last 7-8 years. So the pandemic really didn't affect us at all that way. If anything, it enhanced it because it forced people to do their bidding online. And I recognized years ago that there were much greater advantages for bidding online versus a live auction. So we made that transformation years ago. The pandemic simply drew more people to us. And our numbers have increased substantially since the pandemic started. With the real estate, we again were transferring away from live open houses to doing virtual open houses and photos online. And so it was a natural progression, and really the only change we did was in the COVID procedures in terms of sanitizing, wearing a mask, all of the basics.
So 7 years ago, that was you had a lot of foresight to do that. Was there a particular reason for that? Was it because you wanted to expand your geography, or were you tired of getting up there and performing?
Well, the auction business is, you're right on. It's entertainment, and it's also a business combined into one. And when I was doing live auctions at my place, I would be, you'd have to entertain a crowd of a couple hundred people. But from my vantage point, from 200 people sitting there, really there was only maybe 40, 50 people actually bidding. The rest of the people were there for the entertainment side of things, the homemade pie, the coffee, the hot dog, and just to watch what items were selling for. But really, when it came down to who was bidding, it was a very small crowd. So you're right. I did take a leap of faith and went online, and it took a few sales, but eventually people caught on to it, and they really saw the benefits, not only from the buyer's point of view. If you think about it, if you're only wanting to bid on one item at an auction, live auction, you would have to sit there for 2 or 3 hours waiting for that item. Whereas online, right to the minute when it comes available. And the other nice thing about it is we had bidders bidding from their cottage up in the Muskokas, or from their condo in Florida. You didn't have to be here physically at the auction center to be buying stuff. So it really frees up a lot of the people's times and locations.
I'd like to talk about the real estate market, because the real estate market in this region is very hot right now because of supply and demand. And I would imagine, just like there is in any period or generation, there is a generational change where people who are getting out of the family home and moving to smaller quarters, downsizing. So people watching who are either in that position or who are helping their parents make that decision, what advice have you got for them? And probably especially now that people are a lot of anxiety brought on by COVID-19 as well.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of things. If you're considering selling real estate, the first thing you need to know is, I'm selling my house, but the more important question is, where am I going? And you really need to have that in place before you put your house on the market, because it is such a tight market right now. I don't think you'd have a problem selling your house. It's finding a house to go to is the real issue. So in a lot of cases, we simply try and determine that first. So if you have a condo that you can go to, yeah, we can sell your house and make that transformation work. Or if you're going to a retirement home, if your name comes up on the list, you make that decision and we can guide you through the process of selling, or an apartment. But it's really critical that you know where you're going first before you put your house on the market.
So the three couples that we briefly met and profiled in the documentary, they already had places lined up, did they?
Yes, all three of them in that documentary were all actually going to Greenwood Court, so they're all neighbors with each other now. So, and Greenwood Court, to my understanding, there's quite a waiting list to get on that. Sometimes a 3 to 5 year time frame. So when that call does come in, you've got to act quickly. Otherwise, they'll move on to the next person on the list.
So the decision to sell is one decision, but then it comes time to make often painful decisions about things you've held on to and treasured for a long time, some of which we saw in the film. Is that even more difficult than selling the dwelling sometimes?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, and you have to realize we're going through this baby boom generation that is at the stage now where they're starting to downsize. And this is a generation that, for all intents, inherited their parents and grandparents' furnitures and collectibles, and held on to them because that's what you do. Is hold on to them for the next generation. And the problem we're seeing in the auction side of things is the next generation does not have the same sentimentality with grandma's dining room suite or good dishes or any of that, because they didn't grow up with this stuff. And secondly, they have no use for it. And with modern houses, the furniture just doesn't fit with a lot of their lifestyles anymore. So it really comes down to yes, it's hard to part with all of this stuff because it has been in the family for a number of years. But at the end of the day, if the kids don't want it, it has to find a new home, and that's where we come in.
So I imagine part of your job, Brent, is managing expectations, not getting people's hopes up. Oh, this is valuable. Sorry, no, it's not.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I say this over and over and over. It's the exercise nowadays for most stuff isn't how much am I going to get for it. It's how am I going to get rid of it, and that's a real challenge nowadays because there's just not the space. There's just not the demand that there used to be.
So the first step, your advice is to make sure you have a place to go to. And
Yep.
then what else is on the checklist that people should be considering?
Yeah, so I make the checklist: A, find a place to go; B, take what you need. So if you still have a need for some pieces of furniture, absolutely take those. And then I say, go to your family and invite them to come and take whatever they want. If there's some sense of sentimentality there, have them cherry pick the items that have meaning to them, and then we'll come and take and look after all the rest.
Now, are you selling the houses?
Really
So
Sorry,
you're a real estate agent and broker. Are you selling MLS or are you selling auction style? How do you sell the properties that people list with you?
So we are an MLS realtor, and the majority of houses we sell are on the MLS system.
And auctions
every once in a while
are yeah.
Well, here's the interesting thing in this market right now, where we're listing properties on the MLS system, and we're holding off on buyers submitting offers for a time period. So in essence, it becomes an auction sale. It's more of a silent auction. When we list a house for sale, we say we're not going to look at any offers for a week, and at the end of that week period, we end up with 7, 8, 12 offers. And really, for all intents, that is an auction sale at that point. It's the only difference is nobody knows what the other person's bidding. Whereas at a live auction, the transparency is there with the bidding process.
Let's bring in your daughter, Taylor. Taylor, what feedback are you getting from the people you're talking to and some of the questions that you've encountered about the services that your company offers?
The feedback I'm getting right now is really great. And a lot of people have more questions about the auction process. Per se. So one person asks if we ship worldwide for successful bidders.
Brent has to unmute there.
There we go. Yes, shipping has become a huge component in our business lately. It's growing more and more. So yes, to answer the question, we do ship worldwide. And we have been shipping we've shipped items to Belgium, Germany, France, Britain, all across the U.S. and Canada.
Taylor, anything more to add?
And another question I've got is, what is the geographic area that you cover for home sales and collecting auction goods?
So we are a member of the Huron-Perth Real Estate Board and the London St. Thomas Real Estate Boards. So, and I lived in London for a number of years, so I'm quite familiar with the city and feel quite comfortable listing and selling properties. We had a property for sale in St. Thomas this past summer. We've sold houses in Huron County, Oxford County. Our primary market is Stratford, St. Mary's. And we also do a lot of rural business, a lot of farm sales in that area as well. Kitchener, New Hamburg market, we dabble a little bit in, but not as much. And then beyond that, if I were to list a property in Toronto, that's a little beyond my scope. I would probably refer it to a brokerage that we work with down there.
And unlike a lot of other real estate companies, you're a family-owned business where the trend has been over the last number of decades for these franchises, these multinational franchises. It sets you apart, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that question up, because I've been in this business for 37 years. And when I first started, my father opened the business. Back then, there was, in terms of a franchise real estate, there was Canada Trust or Canada Permanent back in the day. A few, LePage was a big company. And then there was a real, Century 21, of course, was around for a long time. But there was a real swing of the pendulum, and vast majority of brokerages went to a franchise system. The Remaxes, the Coldwells, it just goes on and on, because they always promised something bigger and better than what a small independent could offer. We resisted. I guess our approach was, people are going to deal with you because they know you. It's not because of your affiliation with a large national or international franchise. And in a small community like St. Mary's and Stratford, we stuck to our guns. And interestingly, we're seeing that pendulum starting to swing back now to the independent brokerages. I think the franchises have, to a large degree, have run their course, and a lot of the brokerages or brokers and salespeople are recognizing, you know what, I can do just as well or better as an independent. So, we're referred to now as boutique realtor brokerages, but we haven't changed. We've always been the company that we started out as.
And now you've got another generation working alongside you and your daughter.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah, I'm thrilled to have Taylor aboard, and I got to say, she brings another whole perspective that is beyond my scope, and I'm not as computer literate and savvy as she is, and she has really been able to streamline our storage business and auctions more into the online stream. And promoting social media is the king of advertising nowadays. So she's been very adept at marketing all our properties and auction sales on social media. So thrilled to have her.
That leads me to my next point, because everything today is about story. You can sell as many products or services, but if people don't know the heart and the passion behind it, they miss the point. And I wanted to talk to you about the stresses that we have right now in the housing industry. Here in Stratford and many other places, we have a issue of supply and demand. And the younger generation, your daughter included, getting into the market for the first time is very stressful, especially now when you make an offer on the house, you don't even know if you're going to be in the running because there's so many other bidders. What advice do you have to people who want to get into the market, get their foot in the door? Because as you know, it's something that can become a lifetime investment.
Yeah, good question. And I really, my heart goes out to the first-time buyer because it is really, really difficult and becoming increasingly difficult to jump in with the shortage of housing and the pricing. Right now, you're right. It's a simple supply and demand issue, and it's being driven by low interest rates. So money's cheap right now, but you still have to be able to afford the monthly payments. And in this type of a real estate environment, it makes it really difficult because if you're wanting to go out and buy a house as a first-time buyer, for all intents, you're going to have to go in with a cash offer, meaning you can't put a condition in for financing. Home inspections were a big thing in the last 15, 20 years. But again, if you want to buy a house in today's environment, you're going to have to go in with an offer without a home inspection clause. So you're really going in cash, no conditions. And then it comes down to how much over the list price do I have to go in order to get the house? And that's remains the toughest question because there's no magic answer to that. And I simply say go into the maximum that you can afford. And if you get it, great. If not, there will always be another house that you can try. But it is a really, really hard position to be in as a first-time buyer because it's daunting to say I have to go in with a cash offer on for $350,000 or $400,000 and just hope that the bank will advance me those funds, because if they don't, you're on the hook for that sale.
So if there's an issue with supply and demand, Brent, if there's an issue with supply and demand, wouldn't there be an argument for developers to come in and use some of our infill land within our city boundaries? We're kind of constrained as a municipality by growth because we're hemmed in. We have a certain boundary situation. Do you see the future in Stratford being more infill development and mixed use residential development as the way to get more opportunities for affordable and first-time homebuyers?
Yeah, so there have been already a lot of infill opportunities that have been developed, but you look around at the city. There's the old fairgrounds, which is currently being developed, and there's some lands to the north of the city up by the Rotary complex. Beyond that, there's not a lot of development land left in Stratford, and Stratford, for all purposes, has been very tight with lands that are available for development. So again, it's been a tough market to keep supplied. And the other challenge is this city, if you talk to a lot of the major factories here in town, they've been crying for employment. Up until the pandemic, they had more jobs available than there were people. And that's another challenge this city has to deal with, is having the land to develop, because we need the people to stay here. They've been busing in workers from out of the city to fill some of these factory jobs. So it's a serious problem the city needs to address, and that may require more annexation of neighboring lands to develop. But already we're seeing some more higher density development going on than traditionally has been in the past.
Yeah, and other municipalities are looking at everything from carriage houses to backyard suites to duplexes and things like that. Yep. So we have a lot of very large homes. And you mentioned before, young people may not be able to afford a whole house. I lived in England for a number of years, and this happened a long time ago where they converted large family homes into flats. And so a large Victorian terrace home might actually have 3 condos in it, and they sold those off individually. So that might be a solution, because we don't want to become a sprawling metropolis. We want to focus on our core, but we do need some more available land. But from your perspective, you're doing mostly resales of properties, so you're not handling a lot of new, are you, new development?
We're doing more new construction over in St. Mary's. So Jerry Lang is a noted home builder from Stratford. He's been building houses, brand new houses over in St. Mary's, developing lands over there because there is land to develop over there. There's not the same opportunities for local builders like Jerry to build here in Stratford anymore. So he's been building houses over in St. Mary's, and he's selling them as fast as he can build them over there as well. So St. Mary's, Mitchell, the smaller communities, they're kind of taking the overflow from Stratford and from larger centers like London as well. So everywhere right now is a tight market, real estate wise.
We might see these residential nodes springing up around Perth County and Huron County, around smaller municipalities, and give people more choice. It's still, compared to commuting in Toronto, driving in to Stratford for work from St. Mary's is a pretty easy drive.
Well, it slowed my commute down with these roundabouts, but I can still do it under 10 minutes.
That's good. Taylor, you're fielding any more comments, any more questions from our viewers? Any more?
Yeah, so just some more auction questions. Do you just sell one item if they have a painting or a dresser, or do you sell a full house of items?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, to answer your question, we can sell just one item. We've sold entire estates. Craig, you were asking me earlier what our geographic area is. We'll go anywhere if there's enough dollars in it to make it worthwhile. And case in point, we did an estate out of Montreal. The gentleman there had a massive collection of Wedgwood china, and a huge book or collection of folio books. And the estate thought they would sell better in Southern Ontario than they would in Quebec. And so we trucked everything from his house in Montreal to here in Stratford.
Wow. Collectibles. You mentioned in the film certain things were collectible and certain things were not. What are you seeing as the trends in value that might not have been presumed when these items were manufactured? Toys, like you mentioned, well, it wasn't in the film. We had a toy display in there, but it wasn't in the film.
Yeah. So it's funny. I always like to think we're selling memories. So growing up, back in the days when they delivered milk to your house in the glass bottles, those are memories people grew up as kids remembering. And so milk bottles, for example, are collectible. Oil cans that quart oil cans used to fill your car with motor oil and throw the can away. Because people threw those cans away, and some people, for whatever reason, kept empty oil cans around their house. Those are now collectible because they're memories of what people grew up with, and because they're hard to find. So it's interesting. These items that were, for all intents, free. And for all intents were packaging, are now collectible. And the reason they're collectible is because they're rare, and the businesses are no longer around. So a classic case locally here is Melroy Dairy here in Stratford. Was a local milk producer and had lots of Melroy Dairy bottles around. But we sold one night at an auction for $1,000, and it was during the the war period because it had a picture of the Army, Navy, and Air Force embossed on the bottle. Very, very rare bottle to find. So those are the types of things that are collectible. Toys, again, childhood memories, growing up with these toys, and it's now what they're kind of reverting back to.
One segment of the auction market that I want to share with you is a personal story. My daughter just bought a small inn in British Columbia, and she's furnished it entirely with items found at auctions and on Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji. And this is a question for Taylor. I'm wondering if there's a market, if you've already discovered this, but young people have an eclectic taste. When you or people in your generation, Taylor, look at what comes in through the auction, what pops out at you? Because there's no memories attached to it, but there's certain creative elements or style elements from the items.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because our family, I have a bit of a unique perspective because our family had so many antiques and older things that did come from an auction. So I can still have the memories, but also appreciate where those items have come from, in terms of how they're valuable today. But for me, I kind of look at what I like, and it's not so much about what it is or maybe what it's worth, but more about personal taste. So we get dishes every sale, and if they can't go in a dishwasher, our generation, like Brent said in the documentary, we just don't have time to wash them by hand. But if it's a certain design or a pattern or with art still sells really well, but it's not so much of who painted it. It's more of, does it fit the style of my home and my personal taste, the artwork? So I see a lot of that as well.
And of course, the younger generation is much more online, so they would tend to probably be a growing market for the online auction anyway.
Yes, absolutely. And it's sometimes interesting to see the items that we sell at our auctions that then end up on Facebook Marketplace, and everyone's trying to do the whole buy and sell game on there as well to try to then get a different group of people to see these items.
Flipping items, yeah, exactly. So Brent, in the film was primarily focused on the older generation and downsizing. When people are considering selling their home, do you have a buyer already lined up, or how can you help them find a buyer, or just once word gets out, it's going to be massively popular and get multiple listings?
Right. Well, right now in today's market, yeah, I might have a buyer, but guaranteed there will be probably several buyers right now in this market. So the key is, again, it's about how you market and getting the word out, and that's where, again, the MLS system fills that gap in terms of getting the message, this house is for sale. And when that goes on the MLS system, it's not just Stratford, where it's going to, if you're living in the GTA looking to move to Stratford, you're going to type in, you're doing your search online, looking for houses in certain price ranges, certain locations. And if your house is listed and fills those parameters, it's going to pop up, and those buyers are coming here. What I'm amazed at in the last year or two in this type of market that we're in, we're seeing lots of out-of-town realtors coming into the Stratford market with their buyers to sell them a house. That's not something we saw 5 years ago. They would, for all intents, just refer the buyer to a local realtor here. But they're coming down here every weekend looking at houses, and so and again, I sold a house here in Stratford to a buyer from Vancouver. They couldn't physically be here, and we walked around the house with an iPad, touring the house, and that's how they bought it. So again, this is how the technology has really changed our business, and it's working. For no doubt, it's working.
Well, I don't know if you have a crystal ball in your auction room, but if you did and you gazed into it, what would be your forecast for 2021?
For the real estate market?
Yeah.
Uh,
Or the business
yeah,
in
for real
general, the
estate-
auction business, the real estate market.
Right.
What do you see happening in the immediate 12 months that lie ahead?
I don't see any slowdown right immediately in the real estate market. You know, when this pandemic first started, I honestly thought that the market would go down, not up. I've just anticipated that more people would be out of work. There was that uncertainty of when people could go back to work. Excuse me, and I just anticipated, the market slowing down, prices dropping, businesses closing because of the pandemic, and the exact opposite has happened. And I know there are a lot of businesses that are really hurting out there right now. So I don't take this lightly in the sense that things are great. Things are not great for everybody right now. But the real estate market has been very, very active and is not showing any signs for at least, I would say, the 6 months to a year of slowing down. So I would expect there's still that until that demand subsides, or until we can get enough supply. And I don't see how that supply is going to change a whole lot. So if demand subsides, or if interest rates all of a sudden take a massive jump, that's the only thing I can see slowing the market down.
Do you see a bit of hesitancy amongst the older generation to make a big move until the vaccine is out? Do you see a surge that might pent up demand that might happen once the vaccine is rolled out?
No, I get the sense from the senior generation, if as long as they know where they're going, if they get that call from a place like Greenwood, they're going to jump on it and they'll make that move. I don't see that what the right word is, but I don't see them being that worried about it. The biggest challenge I find with a lot of people is many of these people have been in their homes for quite a number of years. So it's that huge emotional decision. I always tell people, make the decision to sell. Once it's made up here mentally, everything else will work out. And that's the hardest part, is making that decision to sell, and recognizing that, yeah, it's time. I need to move out of my home into an apartment, or into a condo or a retirement home. I like to say, do it while you can. Don't let your health dictate that decision for you. So, and what I mean by that is, you don't suffer a massive stroke where you're paralyzed and you have to move to a retirement home. Do it while you can, and while you're able to, and the rest will all work itself out. But that's the hardest part, is making that initial decision to sell, and again, knowing where you're going to go. So once you make those two decisions, everything else works out fine. But I do find they're still overwhelmed with the whole concept of, what am I going to do with all my furniture? What am I going to do with all the stuff I'm holding on to for my kids? And there's a huge emotion with all of that, and dealing with all of that. And with all three of those couples, I think the message came through, or I hope it came through pretty clearly. I'm here to take that stress away from you, and help you make that transition, because that's what we do.
I believe Taylor has some more questions from our audience watching.
Yeah.
Back to real estate, would you suggest selling your house now or waiting a few years?
Uh, Again, it's all relative. If you're selling your house now, you need to know where you're going. So if you're selling now thinking I'm gonna cash out and make a lot of money selling my house, yeah, you will. But at some point, you've got to either rent a place or turn around and buy a place, in which case you're going to pay a premium right now for that. So again, real estate, you have to look at, uh, if you're buying a house, buy it for the reason, number one reason, you need a place to live. Don't buy it on the reason that I'm going to buy a house and make lots of money down the road and sell it when I sell it. That's all well and good if you do, and chances are you will, because real estate's always been a good investment. But the primary reason for buying a house isn't the investment aspect so much as it is you need a place to live. So that should always be number one. It's like furniture. Buy the furniture, dishes to use. That's what they were intended for. They weren't to be stored in a cabinet to be looked at. They were intended to be used. So use your real estate to live in. Whether you sell it in a few years from now, I mean, who knows what a few years from now will bring. Market could be up. It could be, if it's up, you'll do well. But again, you're going to have to turn around and buy something, in which case you'll pay a premium. If it goes down, you may lose money, but if you turn around and buy when the market's down, whatever you buy will also be down. So it's all relative to, I guess, your concept of timing. If you're fortunate enough to sell high and buy low, well, good for you. I mean, that's all about, that's the investment side of the real estate.
Taylor, any more comments or questions?
Yeah, and we get this one a lot with auction. But what happens to items that don't sell in the auction?
That's a good question. Yeah.
So I try and avoid that exercise to begin with. I try and keep our, I guess, the quality of our sales at a certain level. And for all intents, if it's not worth $20, I don't want it. That's what I would deem garage sale type stuff, and not to be insincere to people that have $20 items, but it's simply a matter of, by the time we pack it, truck it, store it, unload it, unpack it, catalog it, photograph it, to sell something for $8, it's just not worth the effort. So I tend not to take that type of stuff to begin with. So for all intents, everything we do sell sells. We might have 800 or 900 lots in a sale. There might be one or maybe two items at most that never get a bid. So hopefully that answers the question.
I believe we have one more question, Taylor.
Yeah, we have someone wanting you to explain the ship behind you.
Yeah. That is the Endurance. Was sailed by Sir Ernest Shackleton, a famous explorer that tried to be the first to get to the South Pole. And this is his ship that was caught in an ice floe and remained frozen in the ice floe. They never did make it to the South Pole on that trip. That ship, that's a very famous photograph. It was taken at nighttime, and they were somehow able to manage to shine all these lights on it. That ship eventually sank to the bottom of the ocean. And the whole journey from that ship, they took a small lifeboat, and the entire crew walked across the ice floe to open waters, sailed that boat, or rowed the boat to Elephant Island, which is a small speck in the South Atlantic. And from there, Shackleton and four other men converted that rowboat into a sailboat, sailed 500 or 600 miles to South Georgia Island, got to the island, crossed over a mountain range to a whaling station, chartered a boat, came back to Elephant Island, and rescued every single member of that crew. Not one person died. And that's the famous story. He never made it to the South Pole, but he turned an epic disaster into an epic feat, and just an amazing journey, an amazing story.
And his name was Shackleton.
His name was Shackleton.
Have you plotted the family tree?
I don't think I need to. I think by the eyebrows, we're definitely related.
That's amazing story. Amazing story. Well, we're going to wrap it up fairly soon. Let's end by giving people information on how to reach you. Let's let Taylor sort of lead that. So if people want to get in touch, what's the best way to approach you?
For sure. So there's kind of 3 different avenues because we have both real estate, auction, and storage. So if you're kind of looking for the Shackleton package, as it was mentioned in the documentary, you'll want to talk to Brent directly, and he can be reached at a cell phone, which is 519-271-0762. No, 275-0762.
We'll post it in the Facebook
Yes, I will do that.
Messages.
Yeah, and then if you have items that you would like to, that you're wondering whether or not you should consign to auction, we invite you to email us at auction@shackletons.ca and just send us a few photos of items that you have. That way we can kind of take a look at them and give you an idea of what they might go for in today's auction market. And for storage, we invite you to go to our website at shackletons.ca. And there on our storage site, you can fill in an online form, and that's just the best way for us to get your contact information and to know when you need a storage locker. Yeah.
Terrific. Well, Brent, I've learned a lot from you in making this film and talking to you tonight. It's been very informative, and I hope the people watching now and later when the video is up will learn as much as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity to tell your story. I think it's a relevant story and something that was needed, because I don't think there's a lot of information available for people, especially in that older generation that is looking at making some big decisions in life. So thank you for being honest and sharing your perspective and your story with the community.
Well, thank you, Craig, and a huge thank you to you and your crew. I really picked a winner working with you. You're very professional in what you do, and I was absolutely thrilled with the outcome of this documentary. So you're a class act, and I mean that sincerely.
Well, thank you very much for the chance. And to everyone watching at home, thanks for watching, and be sure to reach out to Brent and his team if you have any questions. Thanks very much, and good night, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.